Yeah, 300 videos. To all the AlDub fans, please watch the entire video before making a negative comment or disliking this video if you're going to, and please have mercy on me. My Bebe Love, #Kilig Pa More, yes, that is the title of the movie, is written and directed by Jose Javier Reyes and stars Vic Soto, Ay de las Alas, Alden Richards, and Maine Mendoza. And in My Bebe Love, Vito, played by Vic Soto, is this wealthy owner of a company, and Corazon, played by Ay de las Alas, is also a wealthy owner of a party planning business, and they hate each other. They just can't stand the sight of one another. But Vito's daughter Anna, played by Maine Mendoza, falls in love with Corazon's nephew Dondi, played by Alden Richards, and hilarity supposedly ensues. Now, at first I was not going to watch this movie, but I realized I really was very curious about this whole AlDub phenomenon. I don't watch the Caliseria stuff, although I hear good things about it, and I'm fully aware of the impact that this pairing has had, not just on the Philippines, but on the world in general. And I feel like I have to make a disclaimer before proceeding with this video because I feel like I'm gonna get lynched by the AlDub Nation if I don't say this. I have no problem with Alden Richards or Maine Mendoza. I do not have a problem with your pairing. I actually really like these two people. It's just that I wish they were in a better movie. Again, wala akong problema kina Alden Richards at Maine Mendoza. May problema ako sa mismong pelikula. Because in all honesty, the actors here really do what they can, but the script is just an abomination and the directing is horrendous. Now, the thing about good visuals, good sound, and good editing in a movie is that it's usually better if you don't notice them, and this movie constantly calls attention to itself in these areas. And this is a bad thing because it ruins the immersion of you watching a movie. It takes away your concentration from what's happening on screen. And again, I feel like I have to make another disclaimer. If you are going to watch this movie, or if you have watched it because you're a fan of AlDub, of this pairing, and no negative critiques are ever gonna phase how you feel about this movie, then you're not going to enjoy what I have to say. But just keep in mind, this is my job to talk about this movie as a movie, okay? Like, just want to make that clear. Every scene in this movie feels weirdly underlit, like they only had one light and just aimed it at one side of the scene. And the colors always seem to be kind of off balance. And a good 50% of the locales where these scenes take place are there for the endorsements. There's so many brands being advertised in this movie, and the brand names or the logos are just so noticeable. Again, it just sucks you right out of it. And this kind of indifference to setting does not serve the characters well at all. A good setting can say a lot about your characters, their habits, what they like. To use an example, in English Only Please, Derek Ramsey and Jenlyn Mercado hung out in these small establishments the entire movie, and that said a lot about their characters. The entire movie also has this corny musical score running throughout the entire thing, and uses all these sound effects that are more suitable for noontime variety shows, and they just don't belong in a feature film like this. And the editing in this movie just made my head hurt, because the thing is, Dondi's and Anna's plotline constantly intersects with Vito's and Corazon's plotline, sometimes in the same scene. And the reason why I think this is a bad thing is because, for me at least, in my opinion, when you have two parallel storylines going out throughout an entire movie, think of them as roller coasters, and they have to kind of, hit the high points and the low points at the same time. This is so when you jump from one plotline to another, you don't lose momentum, you're still kind of in the same general feeling or emotion. But what this movie does is that the roller coasters just go everywhere, and it just destroys any consistency in dramatic build-up, in comedic timing, in tension. This movie also makes just absolutely pointless use of multiple frames in a screen or transitions that you, again, usually see on a noontime variety show. And this really just shows me that the people involved in making this movie either didn't have the time or didn't really care about, trying to tailor this film's production to the story, and they just ended up kind of just reusing elements that are, again, more suited for variety television. And this movie has what I would like to call a complete package of bad editing, because some of the scenes here are too quick, some scenes are too dragged out, and there's just no continuity among any of the scenes. Like, it gets really confusing about like how these people get from point A to point B sometimes. And the script of this movie is just so bad. Like, there is zero characterization. This movie relies completely on audience familiarity, and I get that there's such a thing called intertextuality, but this is not intertextuality at all. Don't make that argument with me. It really just relies on people, being kilig at Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza, but this movie doesn't even offer the audience that many kilig moments at all. And it just shows me that Jose Javier Reyes, in writing the script, was just too lazy to come up with actual characters for these actors. They pretty much just play themselves. And while I will admit that I did laugh a few times throughout the movie, I'll get to why later on, most of the jokes are just god-awful. I mean, not even like in the sense that they lack a satirical edge or they're not cleverly written. They're just not funny to me. The plot does attempt to do this role reversal kind of thing with some of the characters, and this would have worked if the editing wasn't so shot. And while I will say that most of the cast in this movie is totally fine by me, my tolerance for Ay de las Alas' screeching was broken during the very first scene. I just couldn't stand that high-pitched noise she kept making. And I watched Ronda, okay? That was her Cinemalaya movie where she was the lead and she turned in this really solid, restrained performance. I know she can do better than this. And Jose Javier Reyes just sleeps through his directing here. Just the way he stages his scenes is so lazy. It consists entirely of putting 2 or more characters at the most 2 feet away from each other and just having them talk. That's it. There's no personality to anything. There's no different approach that allows the audience to understand the scene in a different way. Throw in an inconsistent tone and you have a movie that is almost impossible to focus on. The only real saving grace in this movie is the cast. I did like all 4 of the lead actors here. I thought Vic Soto was surprisingly more restrained than he usually is. Like, you could tell during some scenes that he's actually acting, he's actually committing. And to her credit, Ay de las Alas does get better later on. And her and Vic Soto do have a lot of playful chemistry with each other in the second half. They saved the second half from being the train wreck that the first half was. And regarding the AlDub tandem, I really like both of them. Alden Richards has a lot of charm. He's very likable. He doesn't have that, bad boy kind of image, which I hate. He's really just a charismatic guy. And Maine Mendoza really impressed me. Like, she comes off very naturally. She's extremely likable, and it's just not her fault that she had all these horrible lines to say. It's the script's fault. So with that said, My Bebe Love, #KiligPaMore, is a bad movie. It's just bad. And I know I didn't change anyone's mind with this review. If you were going to watch this movie, you're going to watch it. If you weren't, you're not gonna go out and see it now. But to the AlDub fans, once more, I will say that I like your pairing. I really like both actors. Just demand for your pairing to be in better movies. They deserve more than this. You deserve more than this. Alright, so those are my thoughts on My Bebe Love, #KiligPaMore. Have you guys seen it? What do you think about it? Whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.